Now joining us with a closer look at the farm and grain markets is EugeneGraner from Heartland Investors. Welcome back, Eugene.
Good morning.
Now, the Federal Reserve meets this week, and the talk is 50-50. They may taper the QE. Can you give us your perspective on this?
Okay, well, I'm going to try to do this, which should take 50 minutes. We're going to try to do it in 5 minutes. The Federal Reserve, their word is that possibly this week when they meet, the 17th and the 18th, that's this Tuesday and Wednesday, that again, the conversation is they're going to taper their QE. Okay, what does taper mean? It's the reduction of what they're currently doing, not elimination. Tapering means just what it means, a slight tapering. So instead of printing $85 billion a month, over $1 trillion a year of invented money, there's talk that they're going to dial this back to maybe $75 to $70 billion a month, which the last time I looked, 10 to 15 billion compared to 70 to 75 billion of invented money a month is still a lot of money. But regardless of that, the prospects of the Federal Reserve doing this, I believe, are mute. The case is being made just because of recent economic data starting to show some improvement. But there are numerous factors beyond this that we're not getting in the news place why, like in September, when an open door was created by the marketplace for the Federal Reserve to do some form of tapering, they did not do it. And there are several of them that are still in place today, and it just amazes me how it's not carried out in the normal media channels. You have to find this via shared blogs and other sources that are not normally CNBC or any other place like that where you'd think you'd find financial news. Bottom line, the reason why Federal Reserve will likely not taper this week is the fact that they are the last-ditch buyer of our U.S. government debt. Most people don't realize that the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. It is no more federal than Federal Express is. It's just a cleverly made name 100 years ago in December of 1913 when they created this private banking system and Congress voted to abdicate its responsibility and give it over to a private institution. And it is a private institution that does not get audited. So with that, they are now standing with the prospect of what do they do? The marketplace has planned and anticipated some form of reduction of this constant money creation, which is in addition to the U.S. government borrowing over $1 trillion from the Federal Reserve as well, invented money. So we have several prospects that will keep them from doing that. The first one is China. China has already said it is not interested in buying any more of our debt. But what the greatest bomb they have, and they will not use it because it would cut their own throat, is they hold over $1 trillion of our U.S. government debt. If they were to drop that on the marketplace, that'd be worse than the bomb we dropped on Hiroshima, because this country is now based off of credit and easy, cheap credit. Doing that would create such a spike in interest rates, it would cut our throat and cut their throat, and Walmart would cease to exist. And so China will not be doing that, what I just described, but they are not buying our debt. If they're not buying our debt, the Federal Reserve has become the largest buyer of our debt in the last 2 years. If they are to start to reduce this tapering, it means they're also going to reduce the buying of our U.S. debt, which creates a problem for the government, which we saw last week, again, shows absolutely no backbone to doing any kind of deficit reduction or deficit responsibility by even having a budget. A continuing resolution allows, without a budget oversight, you review programs, either reduce or eliminate them. When you have continuing resolutions, it's just status quo with 3% more money tossed at it. So with that, the Federal Reserve needs to continue to buy our U.S. government debt, because if it doesn't buy the debt, the general public, when they look at the U.S. government and how it's operated and run, they're not going to accept 2% or 3%. They're going to want 5%. And if you double the cost of interest to the U.S. government for the debt that we have right now, we're dealing with over $1 trillion a year in interest. That would be the end of what we know of most programs. I'm not talking discretionary spending, but programs that are in the welfare department and defense, all these dedicated spending programs that can't be done without, they would be forced to be reduced as well. So with that, the prospect is it is a short-term distraction right now being discussed, and with gold prices and how gold's going down. I brought a gold chart along we want to look at here real quick, and I want to show you what's taking place and the sell-off that has occurred in gold. That little red arrow you can see that I showed back in June, that was the low that gold put in when it was announced that the Federal Reserve was eminently going to be doing some form of tapering. Then, of course, that spike you see after that red arrow is the reality that in September, they didn't do it. And now here we come back down again, and we're sitting just above that low. And my response is, whether they do it or not, some form of tapering, I believe we're going to see a double bottom on this gold, or the low is in here right now, and we're going to see a rally in 2014. Because if gold does in fact, if the Federal Reserve does in fact do some form of tapering, yes, gold may back off, but we know that the Federal Reserve will be just creating money somewhere else. If it's not QE at $85 billion a month, it's just going to be $70 billion a month. It's going to be the Federal Reserve giving the U.S. government even more money, because that's what last week proved. There is not going to be any more debt ceiling halting. The debt ceiling in February, that's going to be raised again. So more money is being created. They're just shuffling around and moving the cups how they're doing it.
Very interesting. Did not know the Federal Reserve was not associated with the federal government.
Another little ironic point, if viewers would like to go Google how the Federal Reserve came to be, it is eerily similar to Obamacare. It was passed in December of 1913. And remember, there was no Facebook back then, and NBC and so on. They didn't exist yet. And Woodrow Wilson signed it Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And so it's 100 years old in December of this year.
Interesting.
And
Thanks
so
a
I
lot.
think the gift to the public is going to be more money.
All right. Thank you, Eugene. And for more information, you can go to heartlandinvest.com.